there, I'm Shaan from the Velvet Attic. I hope you are all keeping well during this lockdown and very unusual times we're all experiencing. On one of these days, I actually had a moment and a chance after I caught up quite a few orders to create this canvas. It's a wooden canvas that I did a mixed media project on with some resin embellishments, a beautiful resin frame we sell, using stucco antiquing techniques and some floating and glazing, and most exciting is that I actually used some of our Fabric Appliqués, or one of our Fabric Appliqués. I used our Marie Antoinette here, and I think I'll lift it up a bit, but I think the beauty of her was that it actually gives you that canvas effect, which is just stunning. So it's going to show you one way of using our Fabric Appliqués, and I'll speak to you about other ways of using them. I think they're still fairly new on the market, so a lot of people aren't actually sure what you can do with them. So I thought old Marie Antoinette, of course, who was with Louis XVI at Versailles, married to him, she needed somebody on the wall next to her, and I thought, well, we've got a beautiful picture of Madame de Pompadour, who was Louis XV's foremost mistress. And I thought, well, you know what? She's lovely. The coloring's very similar. And I can use her in a complementing frame next to Marie Antoinette. So I'm going to show you how to use her today, how to use this Fabric Appliqué, create the effects I did there. And let me talk a little bit about our Fabric Appliqués. They're basically imaging we're printing onto calico. They come in different sizes. We do A6, A5, and A4. They usually have a hanging header on top when they're at our stockists, so they can hang them. They've got a frayed edge, which is sometimes lovely to actually use as part of the decoupage. You can also cut right next to the image and use that as well. So what you can do with them is, if you're into sewing and you are someone that sews, you can applique them to cushions and put lace or torquin lace around them, ribbons, buckles with ribbons, anything really, fabric flowers that look pretty. You can really pretty up your cushion covers. You can use them on table runners, fabric napkins, bags, jackets, aprons. I think it's actually endless. Bigger pieces we can do for you that can be upholstered onto the back of chairs. As far as sewing goes, there's so much, including snippet rolls, which is obviously on the scrapbooking side, and mixed media quilting or standard quilting. And then, of course, we have the whole decoupage side. So I thought, let me just show you a bag I did while I'm at this. Okay, granted, this was printed on a canvas bag that I did, but your applique would be applied the same. So here, sorry, I'm just trying to position so you can see the most of it. This part, of course, would be your applique. Here's some torquin lace here. I am not a sewer, so of course I've used fabric glue here, which is very durable and can be washed. But this bag wasn't designed to be washed because I used paper flowers. My whole point to this bag was something pretty and decorative that could possibly hang off a cupboard door handle in a dressing room or that kind of thing. If you would like to have it done in a way that you can wash it, then you can purchase fabric flowers, and you wouldn't obviously use these chipboard pieces and that, but everything you use can be that pertains to being able to wash it. So what I did is I took these lace motifs here. These ones I did some coloring on with paint that I thinned down with water. This one here I tea stained. You can tea stain, coffee stain, or cinnamon and coffee, or mixtures with sugar. I didn't need it too strong, so that worked for me. There's so much you can actually do, and I painted over it just to enhance it a bit because this was a rougher fabric, but our fabric appliques are a lot smoother. So you can actually paint over them if you want it to look painted. And that's exciting too, because you can create pictures in the form of oleography where you can make it look like you've actually painted this whole piece, and it's actually a form of decoupage. So let's move on with that. Right, So what we're going to do is I'm using a straightforward MDF wooden canvas. The size I'm using here is A4. It'll fit basically our A5 because I'm using that part, and you'll see the size of my frame that I'll be using. That's a beautiful frame. We sell these. We've got different designs of them. They're beautiful resin frames. So I'm going to be using that with it. I'm going to be using one of our little crowns and a pair of our Baroque scrolls to enhance it. So I'm following a similar idea of what I did with the Marie Antoinette one, but you can see why I've gone with the A4. I think if I went bigger, we would have lost too much. She wouldn't have been so pronounced as our focal point on this canvas. So I'm going to take these off here, and let's go back to, I think wooden canvases these days are ideal. If you were to use a standard stretched fabric canvas, they don't come cheap anymore. And remember, when we start putting frames onto them, resin frames and buckles and embellishments, we start putting weight onto it. And of course, a fabric applique that's fabric canvas, that's being stretched is going to battle under that weight and start to actually stretch and buckle even more. So the wooden canvas is ideal because they can take that weight, and you don't have to frame them because you could just hang them up straight away. A little bit of press stick maybe at the bottom to stabilize it, but just over a nail. So no framing involved, which is another expense. We sell so many wooden canvases in so many different sizes, right up to huge ones that fit our furniture posters. So our furniture posters, you must know, are 50 by 70 centimeters, which are really big. It's an actual poster size. So we've got wooden canvases that you can fit those sheets onto. So yes, we'll be releasing a lot of different sizes and things on our catalogs and our websites coming, which is very exciting. And you'll be able to see all these things. So today it's an A4 canvas, very affordable. I think they retail around 30 Rand. And we're going to use that today. So the first thing I do is I'm going to use our vintage texture embossing paste. This is our Velvedatic vintage chalk paint range of products. We have pastes, paints, mediums, glues, varnishes, and all the matte satin and glosses. It's a very huge range, and we have 79 colors to our chalk paint range. So anywhere amongst our range of colors, you can always find 3 values, which is important, I think, when you're creating pieces. You don't want to sit and try and mix and do, and it's so nice to be able to just pull it out the bottle and get on with what you need to. So this is our texture embossing paste, and I open it here for you, and it's our smooth paste. Now you can do a lot with this. Number one, I'm going to teach you how to do stucco antiquing with it. Secondly, we use it on textured stencils to create the texture effect on stencils, but with finer detail. So this is perfect when you want that finer detail. We have another one called a dimensional paste, which is a lot more, I would say, a bit more grainy and thicker, and it's ideal for the bigger sections with stencils. So if you've got a not so detailed fine French script or something like that, that is perfect. So let's start with these. So I've got my canvas, I've got a bit of paper towel, my water, and to apply the texture paste, I've decided to just grab what's handy. A plastic palette knife. A metal one, probably more ideal, but I just going to use what I have handy right now without digging through my cupboards. And I prefer the step shape personally, but if you've got some flat ones in there, whatever works for you, I think is fine. So I'm going to use the plastic one today. So when you apply your texture paste onto your canvas, I always start around my edges first, because you're going to get ridges that form underneath, that come over the top. And if you were to start on top, you would have to do all the edges then as it comes over. So it's actually better just to work around your edges first. So we take a bottle. I'm going to lift it here a bit because I'm going to try and turn the angle so you can actually see what I'm doing. So if I take the bottom there and I take some of my texture paste I'm going to pull it off there and I'm going to start spreading it. The ladies that bake cakes and ice them, they're going to love this. The only difference is we're not trying to have perfection, okay? So you'll see, I'm going to see, let me see if it's showing. Yes, I think it is on that camera. You can see I'm trying to create a few steps there, or little ridges in my paste. You want those because later when we actually antique it, those are going to help you create the effect we're looking for. I just run my palette knife along the edge there and along the edge. I'm also quite comfortable just to run my fingers, so whatever works for you, just spread it out. It's not too thick that it's going to run, then you've gone too much. If you can see too much wood, you might not have enough. So just a nice even coat, not too thick, not too thin. There, I made a little blob. I'm just going to show you. This is the perfect time because this is what you need to be able to do when you're at home. So I'm going to just pull it. You'll see I don't pull it one time across because then I've got no ridges. So I'm going to pull it, stop a bit, lift my palette knife, pull in both directions, and just make sure I've got some interest. Hope you can see that. I'll try and turn it. So let's move on. I'm going to go around all these edges, then I will be back with you shortly. So once I've gone around all four edges, I just like to just come back gently with my knife and check that I've got no areas or blobs. I don't know if you can see there. There's one over here. I just want to smooth that out. We'll make another ridge, which is fine. I'm going to soften it as it comes over the edge there so it doesn't look like a dripped area. Then I'm going to check there. That's great. I just do it here. Okay. Now I'm ready to start on the flat top area. Our picture runs portrait on the canvas. To create a little bit of contrast with it in the movement, and that I thought I would actually apply my stucco horizontally, but you have the choice. You could put it down or across, whatever really strikes your fancy. I generally start at the top, and then you'll see I actually put my finger over the top of the palette knife there, and I hold it quite far back, so I've got a bit of a light touch. You don't really want to be pushing down hard, and just bring it across. Make sure you cover all your wood, so don't leave any areas that are untouched. And then where it's smooth like that, we need to come back and just break it up a bit. I'm going to put quite a bit more on now because I've got a much bigger area to cover. You've got lots of time. This isn't going to dry fast, so don't think you have to rush and panic. You've got time to play with it. You can come back even. You'll see after I lay this down, if I want to come back across my edges, I can do that. Some it obviously dries faster, but it's going to take time to dry. And when I say time, well, look, I generally leave my stuff overnight. I prep a whole lot of canvases like this if I'm planning something. But if you're in a rush, give it a couple of hours. Your thicker areas will take a bit longer. I'm going to move down and then I'll come back up and play because it would have pulled a bit and stretched, dried a bit there, so it'll start to dry and then it's going to actually be good to put the steps in. But let's just move on. Personally, I wouldn't be too keen on those 3 lines there, so I'll just break that up like you can see the tap across it. Just don't do anything that's too symmetrical because immediately you're going to draw people's eye to that symmetry and you don't want that. Always remember, odds are better, unevens better. Right. I'm going to carry on down and then I'll be back with you, Nana. And then this needs to be put aside to dry. So I'm going to go and do that and then I'll be back with you in a sec. So I was very creative, or used some initiative, and I prepped a canvas for us. So basically what I've done is I had already applied the texture paste on there and allowed it to dry, and I'm now going to paint my first base coat colors onto it. So the color I used was from our Velvedatic Vintage Chalk Paint range, and it's called Eau de Cologne. It's our light buttermilk. It has a hint of yellow in it, and it's just a very delicate buttermilk color, which is ideal for the tone that I found in the pictures. There was that hint of a yellow tone in it, vintage tone, and this works really well with it. So what I'm going to do, this is just basically straightforward painting. When your texture embossing paste dries, you'll see it's a bit of a satin finish. It's not like a matte finish. There's a little bit of a smoothness to it. Nothing easy enough to paint over. I'm going to open the bottle. You can see our Eau de Cologne, that hint of yellow that's in there. I'm also going to take a cheap synthetic nylon brush. This is a colored hair. They're normally like an orangey color. So it's the same hair, it's just been colored. So I'm going to take that. Now generally when I base coat, I always dampen my brush first. The reason I do this is that if you don't, as you're working with it, you tend to build up skins and dry out a lot quicker. So I don't know if you can see what I'm doing with the water there. So I'm just going to dampen it in my brush basin. You can use a bucket, a glass, whatever works for you, a bowl. And then once I've wetted, I take a paper towel and I'm just going to blot it. So all I've got really is just a damp brush. You don't want water streaming out of it and sopping wet. You just really want it to be damp. And then you won't have to rinse or dunk it and try and wet it again as you're working with it. So the same way I used my texture paste and I went around the outer edge first, I'm going to do the same when I paint this. So I'm going to start on my edges and work from the lid or inside the bottle, whatever works for you. Just sort of slap it on. Try not to put it on too thick, because that'll take longer to dry. And quite frankly, a thinner coat or application, come back and you can do your second later. So just smooth it out. The synthetic nylon, of course, is going to give you a softer finish. You're not going to have all these streaks running through your paint. If you're going to use hardware brushes, hog's hair brushes, the bristle ones, in other words, you are going to have streaks through your paint. And maybe it's not such a train smash on a piece like this because of the antiquing we're going to do and the stucco effect, but on other things where you want a smooth base coat, it might affect it. And if you're maybe a bit OCD. Okay. Same thing, any blobs at the top, just give them a little smooth. You need to run your finger along the bottom. See, underneath we've got paint. Working around to the other side now. Right, and then I want to move on to the top section. Now, with the top section, it's pretty much the same, but I'll show you what I like to do. I like to start, let's say, at the top again, and I do what I call slip slap. So I slip slap my paint on. Number one, if I start using rougher textures and that, this ensures I get into the different areas because I am basically, it's an X action. Once I've done that, I will come back and I will smooth it. So it's a slip slap, and then I come back and I smooth. This way as well, it's the same when I base coat canvases. I'll slip slap it in, I'm working it into the texture of the canvas if it's a material canvas, and I can get it into the texture. If any goes over the side, just give it a little smooth and then pull. Right, so I'm just going to carry on down the whole front. I'm going to put that aside to dry, and I'll discuss other things with you now in the meantime while it's drying, and I'll be back with you now. Okay, so while our canvas is drying, I'm going to show you and take you through the steps of the embellishments. As I mentioned before, we are using this gorgeous frame. It's a resin frame that we sell that I thought just was so elegant with the few flowers on it and the scrolls. I saved some time by base coating this already, and I've done 2 coats of the same color as the base coat on the canvas, which is Eau de Cologne, and that's the light buttermilk color. I've also gone ahead and base coated the little crown with 2 coats, and then the Baroque scrolls, which we're going to use as well. They have been base coated as well. I'm actually going to lift them, maybe it'll help with seeing what these look like if I bring them a bit closer. So everything we're using here is available to purchase from us, from the Velvet Attic. Most of our stockists carry our stock, or can order it for you if they don't. I know with lockdown it's very complicated and difficult at the moment, and we're all sort of trying to find our feet and when we can and what we can do. So I think just be patient with them if they haven't got, but once we're open it'll be full throttle again, so I'll be running behind trying to catch up as usual, those that know me. Yeah, we'll be able to organize those for you. So this is the frame, 2 coats of Eau de Cologne, as well as our Baroque scrolls and our crown. So what we're going to do with the stucco antiquing technique is actually an antiquing technique, but in order to do that, we use what we call a glaze. Now, we sell a glazing medium. This is our glazing medium. I'm going to show it to you like this because then you can see that it's separated. And that's quite normal. It will do that while it stands on the shelf. When you want to mix it with a color, you're going to obviously give it a little shake up. Let me just give it a little shake up and you'll see that it mixes up. And from there, you can mix the colors you would like to glaze with. The reason we sell it in its raw form like this and allow you to choose the color you'd like to glaze with. Not everybody would like the one or two colors, but it just gives you a little bit of maybe choice and variety to the pieces you're doing, and you can just like expand on your creativity. Generally, glazing mediums are used for a lot of your faux techniques that you do on walls and furniture, and that they're wonderful to use because when you add your paint to them, it dilutes the color without becoming insipid. So you can still keep your vibrancy from your color. At the same time, it has a retarder in it, which allows you time to work with the section of wall or furniture or piece that you're busy with. And then obviously you having more time, it will be easier. Now, if you try to do the glazing with water and thin the paint down with water, you lose a lot of the vibrancy of your paint. It becomes what we call insipid. So, and obviously as you're working with it, you're going to have to work as fast as that water evaporates out of the paint. So it's not really ideal for glazing the water. If you can, try and get yourself some glazing medium. We sell them in 250 mils. In 1 liters, they're very affordable. And you just can't go wrong with them, and they're actually easier to use than you think. So what I like to do, and it's one of the colors I use very, very often. In our range, just excuse my bottle because it's a used one, so I have paint messed on it. This is our Art Deco brown. It's our dark brown. It's very similar to those that paint will know what raw umbers are. They're your cooler, dark toning browns, as opposed to, let's say, a burnt umber that has red in it. If you do want more of a burnt umber, you can always add some of our Coeur Rouge into it, which is our red heart, little bit by little bit, and that will warm it up. So this is more of a cool brown. It's lovely for antiquing, glazing, floating shadows onto pieces. A very popular color. We sell a lot of it, and it's fantastic for any color in our range that you feel you want to tone it down. This color will tone your paint down into a more dull coloring. So let's take, for example, if you take one of our pinks, camellia or whatever, a standard bright color, and you add white to it, you create a tint. If you add black to it, you're toning it darker. If you add the brown to it, you're also toning it darker, but it's not as harsh as black would be, for example. Black's a very strong color, and it can be a bit harsh when you tone into colors. So, perfect for toning. Keep that in mind. So, what I do, because I do a lot of this coloring, I will mix an entire bottle of the 250 ml glaze. I'm going to show you my messy bottle. Very proud of it. You can see it's still got the glazing label on it. And I've taken my glaze that's in here. I've left it in here. And the ratio of mixing is I always start with 10% of my color. So we have a 250 ml paint glaze here. Our paints are 250 ml. They're the same size. So keep this in mind. 25 mils, which is 10% of 250. Sorry, my label says a liter, just ignore that. So 250 mil. 25 mils is 10% of a 250 mil. You need 25 mils put into this bottle, and that's your starting mix. You then need to, once you've mixed it up and shaken it up, you need to test it. If you find the color isn't as strong as you would like it to be, you need to add little bits of paint into this mix. If you find it's too strong, you can add glaze to it. You can even add a little bit of distilled water. Generally, when we do big areas with faux techniques like walls, we'll incorporate water into our mix. But just little bits. Go by little bits, don't go crazy. So this bottle's been pre-mixed. I've still got glaze in here, and that's what I'm going to demonstrate with you today. So I've taken a 250 ml. I'm going to run through it quickly one more time for those that didn't get. 250 ml glaze. 25 mils of my dark brown paint in there. Okay, I'll be honest with you, I don't really measure it. I'm not going to go and get a measuring thing and measure the whole thing. I basically estimate that it's going to be a fifth of my bottle. So if you were to divide your bottle in half, divide that in half, there's a quarter, so a little bit less. That's what I work with. So it's eyeballing it. Mix that in. That's your starting mix. Not enough color, add more paint. Too much color, add more glaze or a hint of distilled water. Please don't use tap water, okay, because you start growing mold. You really do need to get distilled water, and if you go to any of our big hardware stores who don't know what distilled water is, ask for battery water. There we go, and it's very affordable. So I'm going to take this glaze, and we're now going to antique glaze these embellishments. Just give it a shake beforehand, because remember, in its original state it separates. So just always give it a mix or a stir, especially if you're doing big areas over a long time. Okay, so it's all mixed in there. It's actually very much runnier. I don't know if you can see how it's running. It's more liquidy in there. Go a little higher. Does that help? You can see that it's moving quite easy. Our paints are generally a bit thicker. You'll see they don't run as much. So that's what I'm going to go with. Now, I'm just going to take another synthetic haired brush. This is just a little bit smaller. The reason I'm dropping the size of the brush down is because I'm going to have to get in to these areas, and the big one, he's going to suckle a bit in these tighter nooks and crannies. So let's start with the crown. You can even work from the lid like I'm going to do. Same thing, I always dampen my brush first. I blot it on the paper towel. You can feel it's damp. And then I'm going to take my glaze. And you see it's almost a little like sort of stringy. I'm going to take my glaze and I'm going to paint it onto, you can see. So I have to keep checking the camera here on the laptop. Make sure that I'm showing you. Okay, so you can see I'm pulling it down. I'm making sure that I push it into the shape. I'm a little closer. Pushing it into the shape of all the texture on the crown. I'm going down the sides. It's important. Go down your sides. And then I'm going to push it in there all the way, all four sides. Can I say, just a cheap synthetic, because you're going to be swirling and squishing and pushing it in. You don't want to use your lovely red sable brushes if you have any. Swirl around. Now obviously I've got to hold it in a section, so I'm holding it by the top of the crown here. And I'm just going to go along this edge here, and I'll have to do the top where I'm holding it a little bit later, which I'll do because I work between all my embellishments at the same time. Mind our nails, that I think we're all sitting with very pretty nails at the moment in lockdown. We're all a little horrified at how accepted we are at looking like hobos. Right, so moving on, you can see I'm going to lift that up now for you. You can see I've put that on. I think one of the most important things, and you'll get a feel for it as you work with it, is that don't go and wipe this off straight away. Give it a few minutes. It needs to take to the chalk paint. If you come in there and wipe off too soon, or you've put your application on too thin, you're going to take too much off. Yes, the beauty is what you can come back and add. And that's the nice part about glazing. But just put it on, be patient. I'm going to dab it on there. I'm just going to put it down for a minute. and I'm going to go to my scrolls. And same thing here, I work with the one section mostly. So I'm going to start here. There, but there. Make sure you go down your edges, because remember, when you glue this flat, you're going to see those edges. So you've got to make sure you put glaze all along there. Okay, so those that do know how to glaze are going to ask me, why didn't I do this glazing while, and basically glue these onto the canvas that when it's base coated and glaze everything in one go? Well, the reason I didn't is because I find with the stucco technique, there's an effect I'm trying to get, a smoothness as well as texture into the piece. So my smooth areas, I want them to look smooth. My texture areas, I want them to look antiqued. And then I've got to work around these embellishments at the same time. It's just going to maybe make it a little bit complicated to get into all these, you know, like on the frame, all those inner areas, try and get in there with your finger and that. So it's convenient and a lot easier if you're not used to glazing to actually do this first like I'm showing you, and save yourself quite a bit of hassle. And then I'm going to put that aside. I'm going to put another one on this one, this Baroque scroll of ours. The Baroque scrolls are part of our miniature range, our miniature resins, embellishments that we sell. Very popular, and they're actually so stunning, because not everybody paints furniture, and I think if you want to do a jewelry box or a little frame or a trinket box, the edges of trays or down the sides, you haven't got a lot of room, they are ideal. And we have a huge range of over 100 designs that we supply to our stockists. We have corners, we have even faux screws in that, and corners and straps and hinges, and so can actually do that whole tussie-cussie on the smaller versions. And very exciting, we've actually received a shipment before lockdown of our new miniature fittings, real fittings, metal hinges and clasps, latches, as well as metal feet for boxes, hooks, corners, metal decorating corners you can put onto boxes. A huge, lovely range that took me over a week of packing to do, which the lockdown was perfect. I could sit and do that. Sorry, before I start that, I want to move on with this. So, yes, that's going to be exciting. We'll launch that on our page, and you can keep an eye out for it. So, lapis. Let's talk lapis. T-shirt material, cotton, maybe linen. Just try and stay away from anything fluffy. You don't want that, because it's going to leave the fluff on your embellishment. So anything, this was actually an old pair of palazzo pants that were cut up, and they're perfect. So I'm going to take this now, and actually take the crown, and then I just basically put my finger in there, and I'm just going to start wiping. Now use it dry. If you are doing things like big cupboards and that sort of thing, I will keep a damp one around, especially for big areas, because if it starts drying too fast in our hot weather, or I need to soften an edge so we don't have a line there, water's going to reactivate this until it's cured quite a bit. So I like to keep that handy if I need it, but on something small like this I don't. So I just go straight in with a dry one like that, and I start wiping. You'll see your cloth will get dirty. The dirty one is ideal for taking the excess off. When you want to buff it a bit, move to a clean area. So I'm just going to take that excess off. You can see compared to that section what I've done. And then what your glaze does is it's going to sit in all the recessed areas, and you're actually going to see the beauty of the embellishments. We've got beautiful embellishments in this country, very well-made embellishments that we can be proud of. You know, the more we can do here locally, the better, with our economy, with the world, with what's going on. So support local, and these are made locally, beautiful ones, and are available from us as well. So now I've taken off some excess. I'm just going to move to a clean section of my cloth, and I'm just going to run across there and just take that bit off. And I want that dark to sit in there, because once it's on the canvas, you must always remember to look at it from the point of view that this canvas is going to hang on a wall. You're not going to have it here in your face. So if you think, oh, it's a bit messy, don't think like that. Think about the definition you've created here, because that is the impact from where it hangs on the wall or stands in a little easel or whatever you're going to do with it. So don't take off too much, and you can always add in, like I said. So I'm going to leave that there. I'm just going to put it down, and I'll wipe off the others for you quickly, and you can just watch me do that. I might just speed it up a bit here on the camera. I just want to explain one thing here before I do that. If you look at this scroll section here of the Baroque scroll, you'll see it's running this way. If I wipe that way, I'm going to lift it out of those recessed areas. So try to work across it, the grain, in other words, work against the grain across it, because you don't want to take all that out of there. That's your definition. That is showing you how beautiful your mold is and how much detail you have to it. You wouldn't see that normally on your plain ones when you base coated them, so keep that in mind. What I just want to do here, I'm just going to pull a little piece in there and there, and I think that one's good to go. And then I'm going to do that one next. If I find I need to, I'll just go in there. But okay, so that's the two sections done there. I will leave this to set a little bit, and then I'll come back and do those areas that still need. I'm going to move on to my bigger frame now. Those there need to move up. Right, so the frame, we can work, because we allow it to sit for a bit, we can actually work a little bit faster, because we can work it all in probably up till about halfway across the frame before we have to start wiping. So I'm going to start doing that. Okay, I'm going to just try and lift a little closer. See how stunning that is? You can actually see now, if I put those two areas next to each other, detail and no detail. And that is what you want. You want this contrast happening. Isn't it beautiful? Okay, so I'm just going to put that aside quickly, and I'm going to do the other ends of these ones. Okay, so welcome back. Our canvas is dried. The second coat we applied. And I would like to now do the glazing on this so that we can put that aside to dry, and then I can show you how to cut the Fabric Appliqué. So we're going to go back to our glazing medium. Remember that mix? And I'm going to use the bigger brush now because I've got a bigger flat area. I'm not trying to get in all those details I was with the embellishments earlier. So I'm going to start on these, and actually, sorry, I just need to move these embellishments out the way because I don't want to knock them. Okay. And what I want to do is also start on my edges first. And then I will move on to the flat end, the top. So we're going to pick up some glaze. Let's see if I can turn this angle for you. And I'm going to paint my glaze on. Remember, you don't want to wipe straight away. So just pat it on and move on to the next side. So like I said, I'm doing the 4 sides. I'm not wiping off anything. I don't need to. I'd like to give it some time to sit. Let me explain basically how it works. When we're doing the embellishments, they've got a lot more texture than, let's say, this canvas has with its stucco that we put on, the paste. So if we wipe off too soon without any detail, we'll take off too much. Whereas a embellishment, it's still going to sit in those details, and that it's just your higher areas. If you don't want to remove too much, you've got to wait a bit. But here, don't wipe off too soon. So I've gone all the way 4 edges. I'm now going to take a new piece of cloth. I chopped up Lotso pants. Now I wouldn't, before I'll put my finger behind. Now I'm actually going to fold it into I don't have to make a rose shape because I'm not really doing a pattern or anything on it or a faux technique. I'm trying to just blend with my texture paste that I've put down. So I'm just going to try and tilt it. Let's see if we can tilt it a bit more for you. There we go. So I'm just going to tilt it, and I'm just going to pat off some of the excess. That's what's come off. You don't want to, I'm going to show you, you don't want to just wipe and take it all off. That you don't want to do. And if you don't have enough on your cloth, you can't put it back. So if you do that, go back, pick up some more, like I've done there. Get back to your dirty part of your cloth. One-handed job here. And we're just going to pat it. So what I generally do, and what I did with the other one, is I pat it around like this without taking too much off. And I pat all the edges. I'm going to pat all my edges. That in itself is quite a nice technique. Or nice effect, but that's not what I'm going for right now. This is getting very messy because I'm picking up all that excess here now. Okay, so by doing that, I've given this side a little bit more time to just sit and dry a bit. And so going back here, I'm going to start wiping, but it's going to be a soft sort of brushing action because I don't want, tilt it again, because I don't want to take off, like I showed you, Nana, too much. And I go the other way because I want, our stucco doesn't just run in one direction, and we want it to come from this side and that side. So try not to just go one way. If you get a hair like that, I don't know if you can see there's a hair there. These are perfect examples of what you can do. Wipe it off. Okay. And then I'm going to just work it back on. So this part is not perfection, okay? Don't try to... You can see that's coming on nicely there. Can you see how the dark is sitting in that little bit of texture we created? And I'm not above and beyond coming back later and adding more once I've worked on top and that if I feel I need to add in more. But because you wouldn't be framing this, it's important to do your edges. So consider doing that. Right, here we go again. Okay, so I'm going to put it at an angle and I hope that'll show you. I'm going to start on this. So I'm actually going to, because of this much cooler weather, I'm going to cover the whole surface. The other one, when I did it, it was still very hot. So I actually worked in halves of this canvas, of the A4 canvas. So I've been thinking that I'll do during lockdown, because I'm not really 100% sure when we'll all be back to doing our thing. I'll do a few more videos and showing you techniques and how to use some of our products, because number one, I really need to do that for you, and second of all, I think it'll help keep those of you that are also in my position and sort of sitting here and what are we going to do, and getting our creative juices flowing, which is very therapeutic for us and very good for us. So yeah, I'll get those videos going. If there's any techniques you want me to show you or make videos of, give me a shout, comment under this video. It's loaded up on Facebook. We also have a YouTube channel which we're hoping to get going a bit more. Go and follow us, go and subscribe, like our videos, and please feel free to comment and ask questions. I'm more than happy to help and share knowledge, and want to work with people and help this industry grow. So yeah, I'll be bringing through some more or doing more videos to show you different things and techniques and faux techniques and painting. And if you want to learn some of the decorative painting, I'll teach you how to paint the flowers. I come from a lot of decorative painting. I can show you nice techniques and easy techniques and quick techniques. Yeah, you can see there's still a lot moving there, so we just keep working. What I'm doing, softly across, I go up and down. But I hope you can see how the stucco is starting to take. Let me turn it a bit again and maybe you can see again. I'm just going to finish this bit of section, and then I'm going to pull in or bring back our Marie Antoinette, because we want to just check how smooth I wiped it off of her, and we want to match that. So if I have to take off more, I can take off more, and then if you haven't, this gives you a good indication of how it looks at this point when you're doing yours. And I think the whole point of this is just play. Get in there and try and play. It's never wrong. You can always do things and enhance and repaint if you have to, and just do. I think that's the most important thing. Okay, let's just wipe a bit more here, and then we'll get her. And let's see how much we take off. Okay, so granted she's dried, so this is going to look more shiny than this one is, but it's just to see how much movement we have going across with the glazing. And I think if I lift this one up and you look next to the frame and that, you can actually see that I've smoothed it out more. This has more of a almost paper look to it. So not where the dark shadows are, that I'm going to teach you that shading. It's more here that you want to look. Okay, so we need to take off more here if we want to match with our Marie Antoinette. So I'm going to get another clean cloth. Remember, dirty doesn't take off as much. I'll take off a little bit more. And I'm going to continue doing that brushing action I was doing left and right, but with the clean one. And you're going to see more coming off, but I'm very light on my finger here. I'm not pressing hard because I don't want to bring it out of those grooves. And they're not that deep with this kind of stucco because it's a smooth texture paste. So be gentle. And you see how much I've already lifted out of there as opposed to there. It's giving it a smoother look now. And then once I've done this part, I'm going to take my cloth, fold it. I want it smooth, basically like that, just a smooth area, but funny shape cloth. Let me just because with the smooth area, I'm now going to do a circular motion, which is almost going to buff those flat areas. Okay, so something like that I can just get a nice little grip of. And let's start here, maybe you can see. And I'm just going to go round and round. Do you see there? Round and round in a little circle. It's going to move a little bit out, but you've got to be light here because you don't want to brush it out of all this texture area. Round and round. And this is why I say you can't go wrong. If you take off too much now, you can always dab it on and just remove it again. If you've taken off too much and you've let it dry overnight, you can add some more tomorrow. See, when I smooth it around in a circle, okay, I'm going to actually lift this canvas now to show you. This part here, a bit shiny I know, but try and have a look. This part here I've gone around in a circle. It's looking smoother, okay? This part I've only done the side to side. It's not as smooth. You can see there, there's quite a difference between the texture effect. Okay, so I'm going to carry on with that. Nice circles, little bits are coming off on the cloth, but it's not wet with medium and paint coming off. So round and round and round we go. Where we end, we never know. Yeah, So I'm busy filming. It's actually night time here. I was very busy with orders and things earlier. And I had a broken fridge I had to sort out, which was a nightmare in lockdown. So I'm just sitting here doing this at night because I thought, let me get stuck in now. Actually just launched some of our new water slide designs on our Facebook page, which I think you guys are really enjoying. I love them. They're new proteas with sunbirds and like a pink protea bouquet that I did. I actually custom designed that for a client of ours, a special client of ours, Hetty. And Hetty did this beautiful headboard I put onto and shared on our page in our group. And from the response, you guys really loved what she did. And she actually painted over our transfers. And it was a big transfer. It was across two A3s. It was 80 by 28.5. And she had to join the protea bouquet. And then she actually painted over it to enhance the color because ours is a bit paler. And she did a beautiful job. So there's been a tremendous response to that. So what I thought was I would release that design. I did, and then also do one similar to what she's done, where I've added in the script to it that she had stenciled on her headboard, just in case people wanted the option. Okay, I think this is it. That looks great to me. So this now needs to get put aside. It's very shiny, as you can see, because it's still sticky and wet. I'm going to put that aside, and it's now going to dry. And of course, my studio lights are, I have phenomenal lighting for painting purposes. I don't know about filming purposes, but I hope you can see what I'm doing. Okay, let's put that aside to dry. Let's move on to our fabric applique. We need to cut that. I'm just going to dust off some of these threads. Okay, so like I said, we're doing our Madame de Pompadour. Was the foremost mistress to Louis XV. And they were both at Versailles, Marie Antoinette and her. So I think it just all ties in, and I think they can work. So she is going to go inside the frame that we painted and antique glazed. Obviously, we're not using the whole picture, but we need to figure out what we're doing. If we put it up too much, are we cutting off too much with her hands? And then, of course, in the design, there's this break here. Me, I don't want that break. I think it doesn't flow. It's fine within the whole picture because of the framing, but it wouldn't work in there. So for me, I think we need the top of her head, because we don't want to cut her head off, the top of her head. I think that's important. I don't know if her head was chopped off. I know Marie Antoinette was. Sorry about that. Tongue in cheek. So there's her head. I like her hands coming over there. I do love the color coming in from the flowers here around. I think that's quite lovely. So that is the area we're aiming for in here. You can't go and really draw a pencil mark, because what's going to happen is you need extra over to glue inside your frame. So you don't want it to be short. I think that is the trick. So I'm going to start cutting it, and then I'll show you how I tested and check and everything, because you sort of eyeballing again. I love that little bit of stamp, hey? That comes through. Okay, so that gives you an idea what we're aiming for. So all of this here has to come off, and then we'll bring it in. I'm going to move the frame to the side, get my scissors, and I'm going to start cutting. I always hope the scissors cut. I'll go a bit high because I can bring it in as I measure her. So give it a wide berth. Look at your points that you don't want to come in on. So you don't want to be close to the top of the head, you don't want to be into the arms, and you definitely don't want to cross over onto the sides. So give it a wide berth, then come back, place your frame over. Now you're going to have to look at it from above. You can't see, but it's sticking out inside and between here. So I'm going to trim that section off, because actually we have, okay, so we can take right off across to there. So work on one section there. I just curve it as well, but I'm going to take off here and just curve it around. Okay, and I think the bottom section will be absolutely almost, no, because we've got to get the head in, but it's not sticking out, and that's what we want. This looks fine. Can't really peer at the top because I'm bumped my head on the camera. So let's just place that. Okay, so I need to trim here because I can see it peeping through on this side here. So I'm going to trim it, hang on, not too much, because I need to, so a little bit we're going to trim off. And that's going to be glued underneath. You can't really glue it onto the back of the frame because it's going to bubble and press down, and that you actually have to glue it to the canvas and then the frame on top of it. Make sure she's straight. I think that's looking awfully good. There we go. Oh, I like her. It's gonna look lovely. Okay. Let's go and see if our canvas is dried. I'll be back with you in a sec. And we're back, and this is finally dried. And I'm going to tell you what I actually did, which you can do if you're a little bit more impatient, or you're like me and you've got to get done. You can hair dry your glaze. Not too close, but just give it a hot air all over for a few minutes, and you'll see that stickiness moves away. Like the sides are still a bit sticky, but this where we need to work is fine. Then I'm just looking at this. Now you need to decide which side you're going to do this, because are we going to keep it busier here at the bottom with her? Sorry, goodness my now. And then we're going to put, I like them to come over the edge. The reason I like them to come over the edge is it breaks the dead straight edge, and you almost can create your own frame effect. I did the same here basically. Made sure these two fit on there, and that comes slightly over. And then here as well. And I made sure that that edge, so that's what we're aiming for. I'm placing everything on here to show you, but that's what we're aiming for. So if I bring old Marie back, okay, I could put her next to it. Let me move these over slightly. Put it next to, and I can judge how low I'm going, or how similar I'm going to be. Give you an idea. Okay, so we're now going to start gluing our pieces down. So I think the most important thing you do, don't worry about moving those off. If you need them to guide you, it's fine. Okay, but we're going to be using our varnish to adhere the fabric. And we're going to put the fabric down before we do the embellishments. Oh, sorry, I had to open a bottle here. Okay, so I'm just going to work with our matte varnish. Now, our varnishes are a water-based polyurethane, so it means it is stronger than a normal craft varnish would be. So very nice for furniture and anywhere where you need a little bit of a stronger varnish. And obviously the more coats you put on, the better you're going to seal your item. Water-based polyurethane, semi-heat resistant, scuff resistant. Anywhere you're going to have wear on your seats or drawers and that, you put a few extra coats on. Allow each coat to dry properly, and also try not to do more than about 4 coats within a 24-hour period, especially on cold weather, because your underneath coats can start looking a bit milky, and that'll be harder to get rid of. So try not to do that, but we're actually going to use the varnish to glue the fabric down. Now we could use our Mod Podge, and we also have a matte Mod Podge which would work really well like that. We have the varnish. I'm not glazing over, so I could go straight with a varnish here. You could actually put it down even with a fabric glue if you wanted to, or a craft glue. So anything really that's going to adhere it to the surface. Not a glaze. A glaze is not going to stick it to the surface. Okay, so that's not going to work. A glaze is a medium, it's not an adhesive. So let's move Marie Antoinette to the side. I'm going to bring her a little bit more in line. So yes, I'm happy where she's going there. So if I lift the frame off, sorry, I just want to check my width cells, yes. So if I lift the frame off, that is where I want to stick and adhere the Fabric Appliqué. The print isn't going to move when you wet this, okay? It is printed on, so don't stress about that. To remember where you want to put it, what I would recommend you do to make sure I've got the glaze out of that brush, is maybe once you lift your frame, you could make pencil marks and things like that, but I would actually just work in sections. So I'm going to leave her there because I'm happy where she is, okay? And I'm going to just make sure she's straight. Her head is going up to the crown. I'm going to fold it in half, take some of my matte varnish and brush some glue down. And make sure you just go wider and higher than the end of your fabric. Why matte varnish? Well, because when you're done, it's going to look matte and it's not going to look any different to your surface and the techniques you've done so far. You don't want it to look different. Push your fabric down, lift this end. You'll be able to see where the glue is, or glue varnish. Brush your varnish on. Okay, we need to just go a little further. Now you can see I've got the glue coming out the sides. Now we want to work on top. Okay, get your glue. This way it's going to go, sorry, varnish. This is what you get for doing it at night. You want to work your varnish from behind and from the top, same as we do with our silk papers. So you're going to now work that varnish and soak it through the fabric, and you're pushing out any creases. You won't find too much creasing with this kind of thing, with the fabric. They're beautiful to put down. I've done a Protea book box as well that just worked so well. I must actually try and grab it so I can show you what I did with it. Right, and then we're going to carry on down, push it out. I'm using the brush, but you're going to see now I'll actually use my finger to just smooth out any creases, because this obviously has to stretch a bit in the direction with the texture, etc. Okay. So now I'm going to do the fun part. I'm going to put some varnish onto my finger, and I'm just going to work it round and round, and I'm going to push any excess varnish out. Any creases I will work out with my fingers. Because remember, it's got to take the shape of your stucco there. So you've just got to make sure you get in, you know, in any areas where it's going to make like an air bubble around the paste there. Keep your fingers wet with it and you should be fine. I like the feel of the fabric. You can feel it's almost canvasy with the picture. And maybe these just ridges, smooth them out. There's a hair here, so I just want to get that hair off. And yeah, I think that is, I'm just going to smooth that. And obviously it's going to dry clear, so the color will come back because it's a bit milky. And then we let that dry. I think while that one's drying, I will show you the Protea one box I did. Side. So this was a book box I did, just as a sample in the studio really. Might be a bit hard to see, but it was the Protea Fabric Appliqué we did, and I used our Baroque Burgundy here, chalk paint, with French grain stripes, done in La Magie, which is a ivory color cream, but it's a cool one. And I glued this on, but I left the frayed edge. I stenciled a little bit of our script, but it's this stencil is very much a non. It's not a script you're going to be able to read. It's just subtle and just there, and it's enough. Yeah, I stenciled our Protea, one of our Protea A5 stencils. Then you can see I actually almost dry brushed once again that Art Deco, which is a lovely antiquing color, over it. I took some of our miniature embellishments. I used one of our escutcheons and our queen crown, and then I did these little faux screws, and they are gorgeous. We have stars and we have flats. We even have little buttons. So they're really nice because it actually looks like they're screwed in. So they are perfect for things even with a steampunk theme. So keep them in mind. Then on this side, which is the spine, it's going to be a bit tricky, a bit high. So let me just show you there. We have what we call, they're like miniature tulip pediments from the miniature range. I used at the top there. And the other one that comes in the pack I used at the bottom. Did a couple of stripes here. I'm actually going to do a video for you on a whole lot of stripes that you can do, which I think you'll enjoy. And then this is one of our, actually it's part of our nameplate range, although it's not really where you write the name, but it's lovely because it just adds to, I suppose, the elegance of it, and not too heavy the scrolls, but yeah, just perfect. Then what I did is I did the sides and dry brushed them a bit. I also floated down my French grain stripes. I've stenciled inside my box as well, and I used another of our Fabric Appliqués, which is the Protea Collage one, just on the inside as well. So that just shows you different things you can do with the Fabric Appliqués if you're going to decoupage them. Also just put down with a matte varnish. No rocket science here, it's actually straightforward. So yeah, that's that one. And the back is just plain. That explains that for you. Okay, so while that's still drying, the color's coming back on that canvas now, so I'm going to show you how it's not as milky. The color's coming back. But I am, in the meantime, going to start gluing these top embellishments on while she dries for you. So let's get that going. The most important is that we match up, like I said before. On this one, I came slightly over on the edges, and we need to do the same here. And we need to obviously make sure our crown is in the middle. So there's different things you can use to adhere your embellishments. Something small like these, I would just go straight with our craft varnish or a tacky glue. Rapid epoxy will work. Okay, contact adhesive's a bit stringy and messy, so I don't know if I'd go there. But otherwise, you can use your cornice adhesive, and that, of course, is fantastic for embellishments upright on furniture and stuff. But once it's down, it's down. So just remember that. Okay, so I'm going to use our Velvet Attic Vintage Craft Glue. Yes, we do a glue. We do a few glues, actually. We do scrapbooking glue, our clear paper glue, pewter glue, mosaic glue. Yeah, we've got glues. So this is one of our glues. So I'm going to use that today. We're going to stick our embellishments down with it. It comes in a 125mm goodie like this with a screw top. And we're going to stick those down now. So first things first, we obviously want to put glue on the back, but now don't put too much glue. You want to squeeze it out like I'm doing now. Sometimes spread it with the knob or the nib. Okay, and we want to put a bit here. And it's important that we make sure we cover the whole back. You can have a brush or a paint scraper. I usually have a paint scraper, but I'll just use my finger. Just go around and just smooth out the glue, making sure cover the whole. Sorry, I have moved back a bit. The whole area for you, like that. If you've got any excess, like I think there's a little bit too much on this side, and just take it off and wipe it off, or wash it off. Okay, so we're going to stick this one down first. I want to lean over a little bit. Sorry, don't get those little blobs off there. I don't know if you can see them, they're just coming over the edge there, and I don't really want them over the edge, so I'm actually marking them. There we go. Maybe that one. Right. I'm ready to put him down. So I'm going to take, remember I said it lines up with the corners there, and then it comes over slightly. So that's where we want to drop it. It's going to come over there a bit and up slightly, and then we push it down. If you find that you have a little bit of glue here because I moved it, just take your damp brush while it's wet and just brush that glue off. We will clean the brushes now, so you'll see they won't be messed up by that. And because we wipe the excess off of it, when I press, you're not getting big blobs of glue coming out. You don't want that. There's a little bit coming there, and I can also use the brush there to just lift if I need to. Okay, and now I'm going to glue the other one. Okay, so the next step after this is where we are now. When I was doing the Marie Antoinette and I was thinking, you know, I thought, oh, it's looking lovely, you know, and I enjoyed that. I love seeing something come together. And then I suppose with a painting background, I tend to look at things a little differently. So when I looked at this stage of Marie Antoinette, I thought, okay, it looks good, it's on the stucco, everything, but it's floating. What I mean by floating is that everything looks above its background, like it's not anchored into the background. So as a painter, I like to anchor, especially focal points such as her. She's our focal point. When we look at this canvas or Marie Antoinette, the first thing we're going to see is this story. After that, we're going to see what else is happening on this canvas. So I just thought to myself, okay, I need to anchor. There's different ways you can distress your edges and things like that. And I'm going to teach you one way and show you a couple of ways of doing that one way if you're having a few issues with it. And then you can create depth around your design. So I just need to let the glue dry a little bit before we can start the floating process. So I will be back as soon as it is dry. Okay, so I'm back again. The canvas is almost dried through, which is fine because we're not going to be painting it, so that shouldn't affect us. Glue is still drying, but it's holding enough for me to be able to show you the next stages. And the next stages basically are this shading here. It's the dark shading you're seeing done in our Art Deco dark brown. It goes all the way around there, around the embellishments, all on the inside like that. And then we've also got it coming through around that side and that side as well. And I even did a bit inside there. Basically, it's floating is a process and you're going to build it up to the stage you want. So if I put them next to each other, what I was trying to explain earlier, I hope you can see what I mean. You can see this here has no shadow, no on the edge of it. And compare that to that. This piece looks like it's all pulled in together, whereas here it still looks a little bit open and floating about and not anchored. So it's the floating that's going to anchor the embellishments, the edge of the canvas, pull everything in together. So I'm going to take Art Deco, our dark brown. I just shook it up and made sure I had some paint in the lid because I'll just load from there. Paper towel. I'm going to be working and loading off of this here, which is a paper palette, which you can pick up at art stores. Now we also sell them. They're disposable. You tear your sheet off, throw it away when you're done and move on to the next one. If you don't have a paper palette, you can use a glazed gloss tile, floor tile, not floor tile because it's a bit big, but a wall tile or bathroom tile. If it's a matte glazed one, you might want to just put some cling wrap over it, and then that'll give you the smoothness. You can work on a smooth piece of glass. All that sort of thing will be fine for this loading process and what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take the paper towels there for me to blot on. I'm going to work with angle shaders. These are a better head brush, basically a golden Taclon. It's a better hair compared to a synthetic nylon. So this here is a 5/8 inch angle shader. The angle shader has a very distinct shape to it. It's shaped like a flat shader or a bright brush as we call as well. But instead of ending evenly at the top, we have one longer side one shorter side, so it's angled. Okay. This top part here we call the toe. This bottom side, the end here, we call the heel. So think of your feet. If I turn it that way, and this is my foot, there's my toe, there's my heel. Okay. We're going to be loading paint onto the toe, blending it on our palette, and then floating onto our piece. So the dark color is going to sit on the toe. The darkest blend of color is going to sit on the toe. Now the idea of a float is that you're going to load your paint on here at the toe. That's your strongest application. It's going to blend through the hairs, and by the time it gets here, it should be transparent. There shouldn't be color here. If you have color here, you're going to create a double line on your float, which could be a problem if you don't know how to clear that away. And if it gets too strong, it's going to become a big problem. Then you have to rinse your brush out and reload. So I'm going to show you how to do that. This is basically the same. It's just a different size. I'm working with a 1/2 inch and a 5/8 inch angle shader. We do import brushes as well that we sell for decorative painting and that. And obviously, hopefully after lockdown, we can get some more in. So let's start working with the angle shaders. The trick with floating is not to use the tiniest brush you can lay your hands on. Please use the biggest brush you can lay your hands on for that area, and you will have a much softer and gentler float, because you don't want a harshness. You want the softness you see coming around the edges here. Okay, so if it's really hot and it's summertime, before you float, you can dab a bit of water onto your surface, and then that can help you with the floating. I'm not going to do that because I've just recently done this glaze, and remember what I said about water reactivating it, so I'm not going to do that. But you can do that if you need to. You can also just keep another brush handy that's a little bit damp, not sopping wet, just keep it damp, and if you have double lines, you can just brush them away. So first things first, we want to wet the brush. Now the water is going to help us with the float here, but we have to be careful because water has no control, so we have to give it control. So don't go over the top with your water and that. Okay, it's wet. I'm now going to blot it on my paper towel. I have a damp wet brush. Okay, I'm going to take the toe, that's the long side. I'm going to dunk it and scoop a bit of paint up there. Remember, I'm using our chalk paint here, so you don't need fancy paint. And then, on my paper palette, I'm going to push, keeping the toe to the top. I'm going to work the paint into my brush. Don't go right across your palette, keep it to a confined area. Don't allow the back to walk into the paint. Keep the toe there. Don't be soft. You need to push and work the paint into the hairs. Now, if it starts to feel a little bit dry, because remember this is your initial loading, so you've got to have enough moisture in your brush as well as paint. Once, I'm going to accentuate it to see, but if your brush starts doing that as you're working with it and there's gaps, you know your brush is too dry. Go and get a little bit of water. But when you go and get your water, if you can watch what I'm doing on the basin here, take it, push it on the side and just put the tip into the water. Don't dunk your whole brush. Push on it, come back to your palette and blend on your palette. If it's still too wet, you can sometimes pinch the end. That might help. Okay. So load your brush. You got to go in both directions. This takes a little bit of practice, but once you've got it, you've got it. So now I've got no blobs on my brush. I hope you can see that. There's no thick blobs. That's important. But you can see I've loaded, the hairs are deceiving, so but when I press you're going to see dark and then it's going to fade away. So if we take the bottom section of this canvas and I decide I'm going to float along that edge there, I'm going to put the toe, which is my strongest color, on the edge, and then I'm going to start brushing and walking the paint across. Okay, and I smoothed it out a bit there too. You don't want to see break marks in your float, so make sure you do a light brush across there. Okay, I'm then going to go back and load some more. I don't always take paint out of the container because I can work with what's on my palette. So while that dries, you don't want to come and float on this side and that side till this has started drying, or you're going to move it. So move up to the top and let's go around the inside here, because that's going to take a bit of building, because here we'd make this quite dark in here. So we want to float a bit of color there. If you get a little bit on your embellishment, use your damp cloth to lift it off. I mean damp brush. Sorry, this is my midnight movie. Okay, and also I'm going to come back and walk here again, and I want to show you something. So when I'm working it around, you can see I'm adding in this dark bit here. I also walk softly across that section, because that's going to be quite a dark section. It's a little bit wet for me, so I'm just going to soften again, like so. And you can see how that section's already taking as opposed to that section. So do the same in the other side. And it's quite a light touch. You push down to get the paint out and then you brush lightly. You can also wet, like I did there, and tap it on your towel. I've still got paint here, so I'm working from here, just re-blending it in. I now want to work around the crown area, so I'm going to start here and go next to my embellishment and walk a bit of the dark there and come around there and back around there. I'm outlining it basically, but I'm not making a single solid line, it's a blend. So the technique is floating, and it's whether you float a shadow or a highlight. These are shadows because they're darker colors. Okay, that gives you an idea around the crown. Okay. By now I can come back to my sides. Done. So this is holding enough, you can see it's dry. Okay, so I'm going to work along here all the way up to the embellishment. So we want to blend, like that, and smooth it across. Get a little bit more paint. Turn my canvas. You'll notice that generally I paint this kind of thing away from me and brush it across rather than towards you. But there's no hard and fast, as long as you're not trying to be 100% perfect. You're blending a float, they're not going to be equal spacing everywhere, and play with it, feel it. Okay. let's bring our float up and around this embellishment here, the Baroque scroll. Make sure you go in and around. This is where you could use the slightly smaller one, but you're just going to be careful that your float doesn't become too harsh. And there's a perfect example. You can see what the brush is doing there, showing me it's dry. I'll push it down, make sure I get enough water here. Spend some time loading and getting it right again. And then I'm going to come back and float all the way around my embellishment. And I should be alright coming up next to the crown now, because that's had time to dry. So you can see I move around. I don't just work in one area. Move around and give everything a chance to take. And then come back and we can walk it out a bit. And now we want to run up the other side of the embellishment, the other embellishment. I think you can see there. And then down the outer sides here, where just the canvas is still, we want to put some in there. By now the top has had a chance to take over here, so we're going to come back there. This little bit here, you want to push a bit of the dark in there. Just a bit. Okay, now we come back here. Now we need to make this a bit stronger. So I'm starting on the outside. I'm going to walk that in. So my strongest is still to the inside there of the curve, because that is my strongest, and then I'm going to soften it. Yes. Gem cloth to wipe off if you make a little bit of mess on the embellishment, which I do. Here you can see already a change between that one and that corner. So this is quite a deep area of the design, so I would be inclined to, I'll come back a few times like I did with the other one. And then remember, your paints being all paint, chalk paints are basically a acrylic base start, so all your acrylics basically dry 10% darker than what you see in the bottle, and they will dry matte, this being the chalk paint. So you will have a different colouring once this dries, like the Marie Antoinette is. Okay, we need to go around the crown again. Let's go around. We need to put a bit inside the crown there. Smooth out that. You can't really float 100%, so in all honesty I'm sort of dabbing on the toe in there just to put a bit of dark colouring. And I will add some more later. Okay, I will add another coat down here on the bottom, because being the bottom it needs to be heavier. So I'll put another float across that edge. once you get the hang of it, it's actually quite fast. I've slowed it down because I'm breaking down everything and where we're going, but it's quite a quick technique. Okay, and then let's just strengthen the floats around the embellishments. This side. We can even walk it out a little bit so it's broader there. Now we need to float around the main frame here. We're going to start floating. Start from the bottom because that would be your darkest area. You don't have to float 100% around every curve and try and get in there. That's not the point. It's going to be subtle coming out from behind the frame, anchoring it down. So the bottom's a great area to start. So float some color in there. Soften it around the corner so that you don't have a harsh line like on that side. You need to soften. Walk it down a little bit. With a little thread there. And then obviously we start coming up. I'm not trying to get inside there. I'm just going on the outsides here. And I'm going to just, I'm not going to try and get in there. I'm just going to float around there a bit. It's important that I soften, that we don't have a harsh line there. Come around. And she strengthened that bit. Okay, so now let's go back this side. Let's walk that around there. Soften that, we don't want to. You can see I use my heel a little now and then as well, just to soften. But just be careful, because if you're not used to doing this yet, you could end up making your lines very strong. And you don't want that. And then just keep working around. Obviously as you come higher it's a little bit lighter, and that's fine because by now you've worked off the excess down at the bottom sides and coming up from the bottom. So we want to just pull in a bit here. And around there. Can you see what I've done? Obviously the bottom's going to need a little bit more. Not strong enough yet. Just make sure it has dried before you try and do that. Let's go and give this inner here one more coat. The dark. Edge here can have a bit more. It's a very deep edge around the outside there, so we want to put over there. Let's deepen that a bit more. Let's deepen here a bit more. I didn't float down the sides here on the edge. I've just kept it on top really, so you don't have to float there unless you really want to in practice, but just takes a bit of you know, getting used to, and then once you've got the hang of it, you'll find it much easier. Coming down to the bottom again, I'm going to, see what I'm doing. I'm going to walk it out a bit as well. And then just soften, because I don't want any strong lines forming. And if you do find like it's getting a bit heavy, because remember I do use my heel a bit, you can take your damp brush and you can just cut into that line and you'll break it away. So that's why I like the damp brush too if I need to. You can work with mop brushes too. I was hoping to maybe do some decorative painting videos, and then I can actually show you how to use all the brushes and mop brushes and what to do with them. Because like I said, I come from a decorative painting background, so I work with a lot of different brushes, techniques, mediums. I'm a helping artist for Deco Art in America. So I was thinking it would be actually nice if I taught you guys a few things and you could paint it onto your furniture or boxes. But like I said, comment under the video or message me or anywhere and just let me know. Shaan, we want to learn how to do this. And then I'll see what I can organize for you. I can teach you some of the different crackles as well. Stripes, faux techniques. How to paint roses, pansies, you name it. Different folk art styles. Because I've done many of them. So you can learn roses, different ways of doing them. But I was thinking I'll show you an embellishment I did and maybe do some of those roses for you, because they were very popular when I first did them a couple of years ago. And maybe you'll like those. Okay, so you can see I'm just moving around, fiddling, softening. It gets too streaky, a little bit of water, dampen your brush. Water's going to help you soften a bit, without being too wet, of course. Okay, and I think what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to take a little brush. This is just a little flat synthetic nylon brush, tiny little one. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of my brown, just neat out the bottle, and just dab it inside there so we can get some depth at the back of the crown here. The same way we've been creating depth here, we want it to look there so that the crown stands out more. So let's just dab a little bit in there. It doesn't have to be perfect really, and not a big blob. Just work it out off your brush on the palette and then tap the edge down inside. I'll lift it up for you to see in a sec. You can see how I've darkened and see if you can see. You can see the dark in there. Okay, that wasn't there obviously before, so now we've created that in there. So in all honesty, I do think we might have enough shading on here now. Let's bear in mind that this is still drying, so the coloring is a little bit different until it dries. Neither have been varnished because I am going to still varnish them, and that will change coloring as well. Okay, so now I don't know if you can see, but one of the things that is bugging me a bit is these inner sections of the crown. Do you see that there? And here it's a lot more stark. Okay, can you see? One's darker, one's lighter on the inside there. I'm going to put that darker in. The way I'm going to do it is I'm just going to use the brush as well. Same way we loaded with the float. Work it in your brush. And then we just want to bring in a bit of a float on there. You see the difference there already? Can you see when I floated that on? I'll do one closer and then let's see if you can see that. I'm walking it out. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same here. Turn your brush or do it from the same side. No difference. We're not working with light on that too much. See the difference there? Okay, so now if I bring that one back, and we're getting there. Obviously it'll dry a little bit, so I'll just give it a minute and I'll do once more over that. Otherwise, I think I'm quite happy with that. Yes, that. So we've just got left to do some gold on our embellishments, just to pop those high areas out to us so they'll catch the light as we work with them. One of the other videos I thought I could possibly teach you, if you're interested, of course, is your gilding techniques, different gilding techniques you can use on embellishments and surfaces. We do, of course, sell our own size for gilding, gold leaf, copper leaf, silver leaf, rose gold leaf is beautiful. We also sell them on marked designer leaves. I love them, they're very creative. You can do a lot with them. Let's see if that one's ready for one more coat. I'm just going to once again walk a little bit on there, walk a little bit on there. There we go. I think that one's done. Okay, just let me put this aside for a couple of minutes and I'll show you the embellishments I was thinking, because this actually just needs to dry a little bit before I dry brush. These are the embellishments. I can teach you a whole lot of techniques on how to decorate embellishments, because there's so many ways of doing it. These I did they were samples I made of dry brushing, different colors. You can do 4 colors, 3 colors like this, and then I painted in a miniature form the miniature roses and pansies on them, and I had a very good response to these, and I was thinking that perhaps I should show you how I created these embellishments with the dry brushing, and show you how to paint a couple of roses and pansies and that. And then if need be, I can even let you have the pattern. If we work with a pattern, it will help you as well. So that could be a free pattern for you guys and that. So let me know what you think, the options. Okay, so moving on. Like I said, I wanted to use a bit of like an antique kind of gold. Not so much what we would call a Venetian gold, that's that more yellow gold. We have our other gold that's very much more like that. This is our champagne, or it's basically like our champagne gold. Our metallics come in 50ml bottles like this. And you can see there's the beautiful color we're going to work with. So it's not in your face kind of gold, it's more subtle, it keeps a classiness to it, and of course when we put it on, we're not going to overdo it. Less is more. So let's put that aside. Then I'm going to take a round hogshair. A round hogshair is different to a stippling brush or stenciling brush. I'll show you the difference. Okay, so you've seen these packs. You get long-handled hogshairs that we sell as well. You get rounds and you get flats. Okay, in the sets, some places sell them loose. I'm going to be using a round one. And when you dry brush this highlight, you're going to want to use a round one, because of the doming of the hair and the different lengths. It's going to help you with that dry brushing and create softness. A stencil brush is what it's for. It's there for stenciling. It can be used for some forms of stippling, but we actually have other brushes called deerfoot stipplers that we use for stippling. So stencil brush is flat on top. A round hogshair is rounded with different lengths on top, domed basically, but it's not a flat domed folded shape, it's a round. So I'm going to be using that. Dry brushing is what it is. It's dry and you're brushing on an almost dry paint. Work with your paper towel. You can work with copy paper, newspaper, paper towel, a towel, whatever works for you. Use your brush dry. Go and get some gold onto your dry brush. Okay, so it's coated like so. And take your, I think you can see what I'm doing. Yeah. Take your brush, work it in. So this is getting it on all the hairs. Okay. Your first loading is always your heaviest because you've got to work it into all the hairs in the brush. So be a little generous with the paint when you first start because you want to coat. I'm going to put some more on the bottle and just keep working that in. So this is the only thing that's wetting the brush is the paint. Okay, our metallics are an acrylic metallic. You do not get a chalk metallic, it's acrylic metallics. And we have metallic and pearlescent colors. Some really awesome colors. Okay, so now what I've done is I move to a clean area and I'm going to work in a figure 8. If you work in a figure 8, you'll get it off evenly. Then I'm going to test it on my hand, and if lots comes off and it feels very wet, I need to take more off, and there is gold on my hand. So I'm going to fold my towel over, not going to load any more paint, and I'm going to get that excess off. That's better. So it's a dusting of gold on our embellishments. It's a dusting of gold on high areas, tops of our scrolls like that, flowers, the tops there, the top of our crown coming down the sides like, sorry, the tops here with the flowers, the top of the crown coming down the sides, and the ends of our scrolls here. We don't want to dry brush the whole scroll when we lose the effect of our glazing and antiquing that we're trying to do. So let's take the top area here. I'm going to tilt it, maybe you can see. I'm going to just start dusting. Can you see that bit of gold? It's subtle, but you got to go both ways, round, left and right. Don't go in one direction the whole way or you'll just have gold on one side of everything. Okay, let's pick up some here, here, here. You can see with the lighting how it's coming up. And then we'd like to catch a bit here. And you know, dry brushing works the same as floating. Use the biggest brush you can for the area to keep it softer. Once you start running out of a bit of paint, you can go and get a lot less than you did the first time. And just work that little bit of excess. You don't need to load as much because it's just a little top up every time. Okay, test it on your hand and then you're good to go. So I'm just going to lay it there and I'll start working around. You can watch what I'll do. And you can see I haven't covered the whole embellishment or frame. It's on those high areas. Okay. And that, you can see how she's now gone back to color. She's a little damp. I can just feel she's cold, so it's not totally dried and it is cold weather. But by tomorrow morning she'll be great and just like our Marie Antoinette, feeling the same kind of canvas effect. This will obviously be left overnight to dry, and then I will look at painting varnish over both pieces, my matte varnish. I'm going to keep them in the matte. I love the finish of the matte. But it's totally up to you. You know, you could do satin or gloss, whatever works for you. So I hope that you've enjoyed watching my video and learned lots of things. And creating is great. But I think if you want to make your products last longer and things like that, one of the most expensive things ultimately when you get into the painting side are your brushes. So just to finish off, I'm going to quickly show you how to clean your brushes with our brush cleaner. So this brush cleaner I have basically personally used, let me work this out, about 20 odd years. It's fantastic. Obviously we buy bulk and all that. Everybody says to me, but it's so small, it's 50 mils. Well, you only need a couple of drops. So a bottle like this is going to go a long way. It's fantastic for cleaning out acrylics and that. It's a brush conditioner too. It's not as harsh as industrial cleaners go, brush cleaners, because those can be damaging on natural hair brushes and that. So if you do use our brush cleaner, you can rest assured that it is going to look after your brushes. There's going to be no damaging. Yeah, so let me just show you. So when you're done for the day, you can take all your brushes you want or used that you need to clean. Okay, so just take out a couple of drops onto your palette like that. You can see I have literally put a drop. The flat brush, the biggest one, was the one I used the most, so I'm going to show you on that. I've wet the brush. I've rinsed out as much as I possibly could of paint and stuff, varnishes and whatever I used, and I'm keeping it damp. I'm not working with the dry brush, and I'm going to work it into the brush cleaner. You'll see I keep the handle upright so I can actually work that in, and I pounce it, and you can see how much this here, that is all extra paint coming out of it. Color, even though it was rinsed running clean, there's always build-up in the belly and the ferrule area of your brush. So work it in, and then you can put that one aside for a second. Need another drop. Just work on the same area. I'm going to do a couple of drops. Just work on the same area, because it'll build up. The foam and everything will build up there. Don't swirl, especially your good brushes, you'll damage them. Push and pounce up and down. You can brush and you can pounce. You can see it makes up a foam into your brush. And then you'll load your brush right through to the ferrule with the brush cleaner. There's the angle we used. Even though I rinsed that angle, we should get quite a bit of the brown out of it, where it's still sitting in those hairs. You can just use the paper palette, because you can even just wipe it off with some paper towel when you're done, and you still can use that area to paint on. So when you've worked in your brush cleaner into all your brushes, come back to your first one, because I literally used 1, 2, 3, 4 drops between all of them, and I'm doing 6 brushes to give you an idea. And just give it one last pounce. So if there's anything there, if you need to, it's mild enough to use with your fingers. You can actually, any stubborn cleaner you can actually, or paint you can actually get out. And then when you're happy, you rinse. Obviously with a bit more clean water. I haven't had a chance to clean the water, but I'll put them under the tap. So work all that cleaner out. And then just pull your hair straight and lay your brushes to dry. Try not to stand them upright in containers, because you're going to have water running down into the ferrule and waterlogging your brushes, and that causes brushes to split. So allow them down flat and allow them to dry properly. You can sometimes put them in the sun. They dry quickly in the sun, but don't leave them out there for long. When I say quickly, I'm talking 15 minutes, if that. And that would basically be your brushes done, clean, protected, until next time you use them. I don't really clean in between while I'm working with them. I always generally do it at the end, and my brushes last me. I got brushes that are 20 plus years. So I think Pompadour is drying nicely. Yes, like that. Pompadour is done. And there is Marie Antoinette. And you can see as it's drying, it's taking on the same colouring, because the paint is all dry. So I hope you learned lots. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd like to thank you for watching our video. Please comment, please like, follow our YouTube if you've got time, and that we put it on Facebook, but we also do YouTube, and we're going to build that up more. If you want any techniques taught to you, comment underneath, let me know. Feedback's great. I'd appreciate that. And then I wish you all the best for the rest of lockdown, and I'll try and bring you some more videos and techniques and quick things we can do that maybe will just add that little bit of extra pizzazz to your piece you're busy with. Take care. Goodbye.